The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co. Hey guys, we're back, sharp on time. How's things? Very, very busy week, but we're loving it. We've had so much talent. We're so blessed with so many great people, providing us their expertise, sharing ideas, sharing wisdom. And today I've got to say I'm very excited for my next speaker, who I met in a couple of events of mutual friends of ours. And unfortunately, one of them was Ryan Long from City Gala, who unfortunately passed away. We've lost some great people this year. And anyway, so Jeff has been a speaker that has inspired me many times, and I've managed to connect with him and interview him a couple of times. So I'm very excited to have him here. I'm going to bring him in, then I'm going to literally do a very quick introduction. Jeff?
Thank you, Bernardo. Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much. So Jeff Hoffman is an award-winning global entrepreneur, proven CEO, worldwide motivational speaker, best-selling author, Hollywood film producer, and a producer of a Grammy-winning jazz album, and executive producer of an Emmy Award-winning television show in his career. And he's been the founder of multiple startups. He's been the CEO of both public and private companies, and he has served as a senior executive for many capacities. In many capacities, Jeff has been part of a number of well-known successful startups, including Priceline.com, Booking.com, Ubid, and more. So, Jeff, I'm very, very grateful for you being here. How's things with you?
It's been good. Luckily, I've been blessed without anybody sort of in the extended family and friends getting sick from COVID. But otherwise, I've been busier than I ever thought I would be during this time.
Hey, right, we have been, haven't we? Everyone seems to be so much busier. Anyway, listen, we're very excited to have you here. You've got the floor's yours. And again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for everything you do. That's why I'm here, out of my respect for you and the contribution you're making to the world. So keep doing it, my friend.
It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Sure. So I am, when Bernardo and I talked about this, a lot of people are talking today or over the course of this event on how to build your business and how to scale it. A topic I love and I talk about a lot. What I decided instead is I'm not going to talk about how to build and scale your business. I'm going to talk about why you should even do this in the first place. So in fact, if people still want to talk about how to do it, I'll give you some information now about how you can join me another time and we can talk about that. It'll come by the screen later. But let me go to the punchline first. If this was a PowerPoint, I'm going to show you my last slide first, and then I'm going to back up and walk you through that story. So here would be the last slide if this were a PowerPoint about leaving your legacy. Again, I'm not telling you how to grow your company and become profitable. I'm telling you why even do that in the first place. So here's the punchline as an example, then we'll back up. Recently, as we all know, small business, in fact, I was on the national news last week talking about the fact that not only is COVID a pandemic, but in the U.S., give you an example. In the U.S., in the second quarter alone, almost 2 million small businesses closed their doors permanently because of COVID. 2 million small businesses in 90 days alone in the U.S. closed their doors permanently. In fact, on television, I said, that's a pandemic of its own. We cannot lose the backbone of economies all over the world, which are entrepreneurs and small business owners. And when we were looking at the numbers, what we discovered was, in the U.S. at least, the government program that was put together to save small businesses isn't. Okay, so specifically, data came out saying that small business owners of, if you're an entrepreneur, of minority, underserved communities, for example, Latino-owned businesses, Black, African-American-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. I saw data on all 5 of those categories, and they're not getting saved by government. And if you're listening in another country, they may not be in the country that you're in. So for all types of small business, it wasn't happening. And sitting there and thinking, what do I do about it? Is there something that I can do since the government isn't getting it done? By the way, to give you an idea, for Black-owned businesses and Latino-owned businesses in the U.S., 91% of the ones that applied to our government's PPP program or small business funding program didn't get it, never got the money. So tell you what we did. We put together our own program between my organization, Global Entrepreneurship Network, our friends at an organization called Hello Alice. We put together our own program to hand out $10,000 cash grants to small business owners all over. The people that need it most. If 10 grand will keep a family alive, we do want to give it to them. Not a loan, not government money. We're just giving out money privately to save people. In fact, if you do need the help, please go to covid19businesscenter.com and apply for one of our grants. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is the why. And the fact is, I was able to do this, and you may have seen it already. My close friend and business partner in this is an entertainer's Pitbull, the rapper. And Pitbull and I have been on television doing commercials all over, talking about our program to save small businesses and just hand out cash outside of the government to save entrepreneurs. But I was thinking something. I wasn't thinking this was a responsibility for me to help people and keep small business owners and their families alive. I was thinking it was an opportunity. It wasn't work. It was a gift. I don't have to get up in the morning and figure out how to do this. I get to do this. And I realized that I get to do this because I invested the time and the effort to build businesses and build profitable businesses. So the reason I'm telling you that's the last slide of my presentation is that's the why. When I look back now, why did I get up so early? And I want you to think about this. Why are you doing this? Why are you taking the risk of being an entrepreneur, a small business owner, even if you work at a big company? Why are you working so hard? What are you working for? And what I'm going to tell you today is I'm going to talk about ways to leave your legacy. But the real subtitle of this presentation is why get up so early and work so hard? Why are we doing this anyway? So I'm going to back up and I'm going to kind of tell you, I want to talk about legacy in 3 pieces today. And again, what I just told you about, that program, I hope will be part of my legacy. I actually got to do something that mattered. And I'm going to share with you kind of a thought, a way that it occurred to me. In fact, especially talking to friends of mine like Pitbull, people that have sort of climbed the pinnacle of their industry. And it turns out, guys, that success is not the destination. It's the platform. It's not the end of your career. It's the start of your life. Success is not a destination. It's a platform that enables you to finally do the stuff that really matters in life. Okay? So what I'm telling you is they're both important. Building a business, scaling a business, making money, these are not bad things. Being profitable, they are enablers for you to be able to go do something with the rest of your life that really, really matters. So let me back up and tell you sort of my story. And like I said, I'm going to talk about legacy today in 3 pieces. Your legacy to yourself. Then I'm going to talk about your legacy to your community that you and your company can leave. Then I'm going to talk about a legacy you can leave for your employees, which is an area that people don't usually even think about. I certainly didn't when I started. So let's start with your legacy to yourself. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important. And it's so important that if you, let's make up a crazy example. You're not probably in the best position to give a friend relationship advice if every relationship in your life is having issues. Okay? You might want to get your own house in order before you start doling out advice. So by the same way, if your legacy is going to be helping other people make their lives better and be fulfilled and be happy, then you need to get there first. So you know what it looks like and you know how to get there. So that's why your legacy to yourself, I don't want you to think of this as a selfish thing. Jeff, why should I care about achieving my legacy for me? I want you to think about it as the prerequisite, the classes you got to take before you can take the graduate class in making other people's lives better. So I started thinking about that. And some of you before have heard me tell this story. My best friend in the entire world, Michael, the kind of friend that Michael and I would hang up the phone when we talked to each other. And Michael would call me back and he would say, hey, and I'd say, dude, we just hung up the phone. And he would say, yeah, but I hung up without saying I love you. Okay, men don't say that to each other frequently enough. But Michael never hesitated to do that. My best friend in the entire world. And Michael used to climb mountains. Michael was a climber, a world record-setting climber. And Michael used to climb, very dangerous sport to be cliff climbing and things like that. And I used to jokingly say to Michael when he'd go out and climbing on weekends, I used to tease him and I used to say, can you not climb this weekend? And Michael would say, why? And I would say, because I'm really busy and I don't have time to go to your funeral. And this was our running joke. And he promised me he'd never fall off a mountain and die. And one day I grabbed him by the shoulders and I said, seriously, I can't imagine a world without you. I said, so when are you going to stop doing this? It's a dangerous sport. When are you going to stop dangling from cliffs 600 feet above the ground? And he said, Jeff, you're right. There's a chance I could die doing this thing that I love doing. And he said, but I'll tell you something. He said, Jeff, I'll take 40 years of my life the way I'm living it versus 90 years of what most everybody else does. And I looked in my best friend's eyes, and guys, I realized he was telling the truth. If he had a choice between 90 years of just going through the motions or 40 years of living his life his way, he'll take the 40-year deal. Well, unfortunately, I have a bit of bad news that's still hard for me to verbalize. At 42 years old, Michael never fell off a mountain or a cliff. He drowned in a freak accident in the Irish Sea at 42. And I was standing at my best friend's funeral, looking out over the ocean with tears in my eyes and thinking, why did he really say, I'll take 40 years of living my life versus this way versus 90 years of everyone else's? And I started to realize something, because Michael was, to use Bernardo's words, Michael had become the best him. Michael was focusing on being the best Michael that he could be, on living his definition of an epic life. He wasn't waiting for tomorrow. He wasn't making excuses for the things he was going to do. But he also wasn't being irresponsible. He was being Michael all out. He was living his version of an epic life. So it made me change my definition of success. And we are raised to believe that success is a combination of a couple different things. One is money. If somebody gets rich, we say, boy, he made it. When he drives by in his Rolls Royce, we say, boy, he's successful. And yet, guys, I have billionaire friends who are miserable. If somebody gets famous, we say, wow, look at her, she made it. And yet I have very famous friends who are miserable. In fact, if you think about it, in the US, Kate Spade commits suicide, Anthony Bourdain commits suicide, Robin Williams, rich and famous people. Apparently that wasn't it. So looking at Michael, who was by this definition the richest person I've ever met, my new definition of success, of legacy, is this: is anybody you meet that can look back at their entire life from right now, take a look back at your entire life up to this moment and say, man, what a ride.
For complimentary resources from my book, my complimentary e-course, The Power of the Question, or recommended reads, go to www.thequestion.com/resources. For more information on my coaching or mentoring, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
Okay, anybody that can look back and say, I wouldn't trade my life with anybody, even with all the mistakes you've made. If you can look back and say, nope, don't touch my life. I like it exactly how it turned out and how it's turning out. That is success. You might be broke. You might be rich, right? You might be famous. You might never have anything like that in your life. It doesn't matter. There's only one definition that matters, that your version of an epic life is the life you're actually living. And everybody's version of epic is very, very different. So I realized Michael was living his epic life. He didn't want to trade his life with anybody else's. He was happy with the way it was working out. So I realized that the reason for that was because the list of things that would make Michael look back at 40 years old and say, man, what an epic life I'm having. Again, everybody's list is different and personal. He was doing those things. And what's the first step in doing those things? Having a list. So I started going around and asking people a question that I'll ask you guys to think about. Write it down tonight. Even just one thing. Name one thing that you need to do with your life so that you will look back one day, no matter how old you are, and say, man, I'm living my epic life. I have become my best me, to use the best you terminology. I have become my best me. I am living my epic life, and I wouldn't trade my life with anybody's. Right? Sometimes I talk to kids in school, say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say things like Beyonce. And I'm like, seriously? Why don't you put the energy you're putting into wishing you had someone else's life into making yours a life you wouldn't trade with anybody else's? So that is the legacy you need to leave to yourself. And I'm going to give you kind of a tip on how to do that and sort of tell you how I got there before we move to the next part of legacy. I started thinking about my definition. And again, I want you guys to write down even just one thing that would make your life an epic life when you look back one day. I want you to be able to say, man, did I use my time on this planet well? I used my life well. And even with my mistakes, I'm leaving without, without regrets. By the way, let me tell you what to do with that. At any given point, one of those epic life goals, I write them down on a white index card and I stick them on my bathroom mirror. And first of all, why do I write them down? Because when you write down a dream, I don't even like that word, a goal, because some people think dreams are irresponsible, which is a little ridiculous. But I think as soon as you stop dreaming, you stop living, people. Dreams are the most important fuel in your tank, not rationality. As a matter of fact, when I started asking people about their dreams, you know what they tell me? They say, Jeff, I had dreams when I was younger, but now I have a spouse, a husband, a wife, kids, a mortgage. I say, what does that mean? And they say, Jeff, at some point you got to grow up. And you know what I would say? Are you growing up or are you just giving up? Because accepting the notion that having dreams is irresponsible because you have a mortgage and kids to feed is literally giving up. The truth is that the legacy you owe yourself is to say, how do I achieve both things? How do I create an epic life while taking care of my responsibilities? Quit accepting the fact that your career and your dreams don't allow them to be mutually exclusive. People say to me, well, my dreams, my epic life goals, those are things I'll do on the weekend if I'm not too tired and if there's any money left over. Those are the things I'll do someday when I retire. I'm going to climb Mount Everest when I'm too old to walk. Really? That doesn't even make sense to me. So what we've come to accept is that the things that we want to do to make our life epic, to leave our legacy to ourselves, are irresponsible things because we got to be grown-ups. So what I want you to do is stop. Here's what I want you to do. Let me phrase it this way. Your career should be the vehicle that takes you to the life you always dreamed of living, not the obstacle that prevents you from living it. Okay? Make it your vehicle, not your obstacle. How do you do that? First, you got to know your definition of an epic life. That's what I was just at. I write it down. I write it down because when I ask people to tell me what their dream or one thing they have to do to make their life epic, you know what they tell me? They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to be reminded of the things they were going to do that they never got around to. They sweep it under the rug. So I write it on an index card. I put it on the bathroom mirror. You know why I do that? Once you write it down, it's out there. It's real. It's in the world. Why do you put it on the bathroom mirror in writing? Because you can't hide from it anymore. Why the bathroom mirror? Because you know where I end every day? In the bathroom brushing my teeth. And you know what I do? I look at that little card and I say to myself, Jeff, did you do anything today to get any closer to a life you're going to look back at and say, wow, what a ride this was. Wouldn't trade this life with anybody. Every morning when I wake up, I start my morning in the bathroom brushing my teeth and I say, what are you going to do today to get any closer to the life you really deserve to live, not the one you're living because you're a grown-up or whatever that is all about. So I'll tell you mine. When I was a kid, we read a Mark Twain book in school. And Mark Twain said, travel is the fatal enemy of prejudice. And when I read that in 7th grade, I couldn't sleep. I was up all night because I was sure that Mark Twain wrote that quote in that book personally for me. Even if he was dead, he somehow wrote in my book. I knew that was meant for me. And I sat up all night thinking about it and I figured it out. what Mark Twain meant. I grew up in a little desert town that nobody ever left, and nobody really had any ambitions or wanted to go anywhere or do anything. And everybody looked the same. And I realized something really important right now. And, when we deal with things like the racial injustice and the fires that are burning in the United States right now, I realized that the only way I could turn into the man I want to be someday, the person I want to be someday, is that I need to get out and see the world. I need to go have dinner at the dinner table in the homes of people that look nothing like me and grew up nothing like me. I don't need to judge a Muslim that I've never met. I need to go have dinner with a Muslim family, talk to their kids, sit at their table, learn about their lives. I don't need to judge people whose skin color or gender or ethnicity is different than mine. I need to go to their house and have dinner with them and their family before I make any judgments. What Mark Twain was saying was that tolerance comes from understanding, and understanding comes from spending time with people. So I wrote down my definition of an epic life. My definition of an epic life is, if I have visited 50 countries in my life, but it was even more. I wrote on my bathroom mirror, visit 50 countries in my life before I die. And then I can look back and say, man, what a ride. I was successful because I achieved my version of an epic life. And so now you should probably be less surprised that I was involved in travel companies, right? Like Priceline or Booking.com, because my goal was to pay my bills while living my dream. What is the beauty of entrepreneurship? It's that we design our future. Everyone else is hoping theirs will come out okay and waiting for it. Entrepreneurs just create it. Entrepreneurship's not a job. It's a mindset. It's an attitude. It's the attitude of self-determination. It's the attitude of saying, I'm going to do both. I'm going to live my epic life and I'm going to pay my bills at the same time. In fact, my very first company, when I was 20-something, I had an engineering job that I hated because my bathroom mirror said visit 50 countries. But my job said, go back to your cubicle every day, day in and day out. I never saw anything but my cubicle. And I would come home and brush my teeth and say, this epic life ain't happening. You sit in a cubicle all day. You're at a total of 0 countries on your quest for 50. So I quit. And I said, I got to design a life that lets me do both. So I will tell you guys, my first startup ever, when I decided to become an entrepreneur, 20-something years old, completely broke. Everybody's mad at me because I quit my good job. I don't even have food in the fridge. I have 2 things, a desire to be a responsible adult and a definition of an epic life, which involves being able to go see the world. So my very first product happened. I'm not going to waste time on the story, but if you have ever gone to an airport and checked in at a kiosk, pretty much anywhere in the world, that was my first invention. I got stuck. I missed a flight standing in an airport line waiting to check in at a ticket counter. And I threw a little temper tantrum and said, I'm never doing this again. Went home, took out a pencil and said, I bet I could design a kiosk where people could just check in themselves at the airport and no more lines. That was my first product. But here's the cool part. The product sold. My actual job every week was to fly to another country because they wanted my product. So I would fly country after country, deliver my kiosk, collect a big check. So guess what? I'm a grown-up now. I can actually pay my mortgage while I was living my dream and seeing the world. I did not allow my career to prevent me from living my epic life. I used it to get there. I designed the future that I wanted to live so that I could look back and say, did I live my legacy? Did I fulfill my goals first before now I'm going to move into the more important part, fulfill and leaving your legacy for others? Today, I have visited 97 countries. And the cool part is that I pretty much got paid to do that. And again, I'm not a materialistic person, but if I didn't work hard and make money, I couldn't do programs and things like I told you about at the beginning of this talk. So fortunately, we were able to, make millions and millions of dollars by building travel companies and travel technology. The bigger companies became multi-billion-dollar companies that allowed us to see the world, to travel, and to be responsible adults. So that's step 1, guys. Write down your definition of an epic life. Put something on your mirror that you can't hide from every day and use it as a North Star to make sure you're steering towards the future you want, not pretending that you never dreamed of doing that. In fact, I hope some of you will take pictures of what's on your bathroom mirror and send it to me. Just make sure you get dressed first before you take the picture. Someone made that mistake one time. It's just Jeff at jeffhoffman.com. I'd love to hear about your epic life. Now, let's move forward to leaving your legacy to those around you in your community and how your company can do that. And so I've got to tell you a story. Things went well in business. We had our failures. Our successes were much bigger. I was seeing the world and I was getting paid to do it. So I'm good. I'm getting a chance to have that life I'm going to be happy about looking back. As a matter of fact, one of the things that was kind of cool was one of my definition of an epic life is I love music. And I always dreamed of being part of it. And I dreamed of, not being a musician, but being in the business, being, backstage with the artists in the studio, creating the music on the tour bus, going on tour, delivering the gift of music to the world. So I wrote that on my mirror after the 50 countries was done. And so I started another company, which was a music company. And the music company, you have a high probability of all these things failing, but don't fear failure, fear apathy. Fear spending your whole life not really trying and not really caring. That's way scarier than trying stuff and failing. When you fail, at least you got a story and at least you feel like you're living. So I took a shot at the music thing, and I'm going to skip the details. Fortunately, our music company was successful, and we did tours and concerts. We were in the pop era with NSYNC back then, Britney Spears, Elton John, lots of artists, but we produced music too. And I was very blessed that we won a Grammy for a jazz album we produced. And so at this moment in my life, my legacy was being filled. My cup was full. I got to see the world. I got to make money doing it. I got to start a music company. And somehow, some way, I'm standing on the red carpet at the Grammys and we just won one. But I'm telling you that story for this reason. While I was standing there, I had this feeling. And the feeling I had was this. I cannot believe that the course of my life has blessed me so much that I'm standing right here, right now. I was in this surreal high. I felt like I was floating off the red carpet because we were going home with the Grammy. I'm a software engineer, by the way, and I just won a Grammy. This is nuts. So the feeling that I had, the feeling was this. This has nothing to do with Grammys or awards or money or music. The feeling was this. I hit a moment in my life where I could not believe I was lucky enough that this was really my life. And so I realized something. I want every human being deserves to have their own red carpet moment. I started thinking, I want every human being to have a chance to feel like I feel right now, whatever that your definition is. I asked one young girl at an inner city Cleveland school in Cleveland one day, tell me what your red carpet moment would be. And I want you to write yours down. Where would you have to be in your life and what would have to be happening for you to look around at that moment and say, I cannot believe this is my life? That's the red carpet moment. That is what I've dedicated the rest of my life to, helping as many people as I can get there. That's part of your legacy that you can leave, and I'm going to tell you how right now. But when I asked this young girl in Cleveland, I said, what's your red carpet moment? This young girl wouldn't even make eye contact because life had beaten her up so bad. And she said this. She said, my red carpet moment, my epic life would be if just once before I die, my mother would say one nice thing to me. And I mean, guys, tears filled my eyes. And I said, I don't understand. And she said, every day of my life, my mother wakes up, and I'm sorry for being real here, but I'm going to use the real language. This little girl said, every day I wake up, my mother looks at me and says, you're a worthless piece of shit, and I wish you'd never been born. And this girl said, just once, I want to work hard enough and be successful enough that before I die, she says, I'm proud of you, and I'm glad you're my daughter. She said, that's my red carpet moment. That's all I've ever wanted. And you want to talk about legacy? I knew immediately what my mission is in life. My mission is that I worked hard enough to learn how to make things successful. I have been mentoring that girl ever since. And you guys should know she's getting ready. She got accepted to medical school. She's a magna cum laude student in college. Yes, we paid for her college education, but she's crushing it. She's going to go on and change other people's lives as a pediatric surgeon because someone down the line took a moment to share what they knew with her. That's what it's all about for you to do. So where it crystallized for me was I was feeling guilty one day about being financially successful because I was sitting warm and comfy in my house and thinking out there are little girls like that who live in fear every day, don't know where their next meal is coming from. There, whatever city you live in, there's someone in that city literally living in fear and hunger right now. It might be from abuse, it might be from crime, and it might be from poverty or all of the above. There's somebody right now that's having a real bad life and you're not. And so I felt guilty about the fact that I had made money from my companies. And I turned on my television set. And on TV, I was going to watch sports because that's my getaway. When I just need a mental break, I turn on sports. And I was looking for the game, and there was a news report. And on the news story, there was a reporter in my town. And she was talking to these women in this house, and they were all crying. And I said, whoa, I think I know where that house is. I've driven through that area. I wonder what happened there. Was there a murder or something? There wasn't. What happened was it was a home for abused women. And 2 abused women had saved up to buy a house. And the reason many women continue to be abused is because they have nowhere to go. They have no money and no relatives. So they're stuck because they can't leave. So these 2 women decided to create a place for you to go for free to get out of an abusive home. Problem is they ran out of money. The news story was they're being evicted midnight the next night because they're 4 months behind on their mortgage. And I looked at the TV and I said something every one of you listening to me right now is guilty of saying. I said, man, they should help those women. They should do something. They should help those women. And a thought occurred to me at that moment that changed my life. This was an epiphany moment in me for understanding legacy. What I thought was if everybody that sees a problem anywhere in the world, if you're driving through your own town and you say, wow, they should get shoes for those people, whatever, they should help those women. If everybody seeing a problem says they should help those women, then who's helping them? Nobody. And so I got up and I wrote down the 4 most important words in my entire life, and they will be to the day I die. I wrote down, there is no they. It's still written on my wall where I wrote it the first time. There is no they, it's you. And I realized, whoa, it's me, because they don't exist. The mythical they aren't going to save those women. But guess what? I can. And you know why I can? Because I worked really hard when no one else believed in my dream. I dreamed big. I worked hard. I skipped a lot of parties my friends went to because I had hashtag goals and dreams. And I finished them. And I stuck to it. And you know what that did? That enabled me to build profitable businesses and make money. And so you know what happened? That money that I felt bad about 10 minutes ago, I suddenly was so happy that I had worked harder than anybody I know. And I was suddenly so happy that I worked hard enough to scale my businesses and make them profitable. Because you know what I could do now? I could make a difference. So I went to the bank and I decided that I wanted to do this anonymously. So I did this in cash. But basically, I went to the house and I paid all their back. I gave them enough money to pay their back rent. Then I covered the entire next year's worth of all of their bills. I paid for the house, basically. And I gave them money to take education, to get babysitters, and to install security in the house. And when I went back home that night, thankful that I had worked so hard that I was able to be successful in the financial way so that I could actually make a difference in somebody else's life, I had decided one day that I don't want, in fact, I saw a sign that said, you may be successful, but will you matter? And that really hit me hard. You know what the difference is? Success is closing another deal, having another exit, selling another house, whatever, if you're in real estate, that's success. But mattering is making somebody else's life better. I don't want to be judged by the number of dollars I made. I want to be judged by the number of other people's lives I made better. That's the legacy that's on my bathroom mirror. So I got busy doing that. And that's how these 2 things connect with your success. So they go back on the news that night. And because I did it anonymously, I didn't want the story to be about me. I wanted the story to be about, we have got to give shelter to abused women. They need a place to go. So I did it anonymously. I turned on my TV that night. These women are crying again. And the news reporter says, this time they're tears of joy. And she said, what happened? And the woman that ran the shelter said, all the women are unpacking. And she told this story that I just told you. She said, some man came in here and paid for everything, paid for the house, paid for the bills, gave us money for babysitting so we could get jobs again, blah, blah, blah. But what she said that struck me was this woman said, it was a miracle. Some man showed up and took care of all this for us. So I turned around And I wrote something else on my board that I want you to write down or at least think about. I wrote, your success is someone else's miracle, because I never thought of it that way before.
For more information on collaborating, partnering, sponsoring, supporting, or speaking at any of our events, or finding out more about our legacy clubs, go to www.thebestyou.co. If you're interested in finding out more about the amazing content we have, please go to www.thebestyou.online and get your 14-day free trial now.
Your success is someone else's miracle. Every day when I don't feel like getting up, but I get up anyway, and every day when I don't feel like doing my best work, but I do my best work anyway, I am one step closer to creating another miracle in someone else's life, because I did what it took to get there, to put myself in a position to be able to make other people's lives better. That is what you should do. That is what we're put on this earth for, right? Bernardo and I agree with that on that big time. That's why I'm here, and answered as soon as he called me, because we agree that we were put here to make other people's lives better. So not only did I not ever feel guilty about making money again, but I couldn't wait to go back to the office and start another profitable company so that I could make more miracles in my community. That is literally the formula. There is no shame in life in making money. The shame in life is in not using it to help others. And so I want to do a last section, and where I want to talk about a legacy. Let me tell you what happened out of that, because now I'm going to talk about the legacy of your company and your employees. The next day I was in the office, and everybody, all my employees are in the break room, and everybody's buzzing. The TV's on. And then someone comes, I go to my office. One of my employees, Heidi, comes in the office. She's like, Jeff, did you hear what happened last night in town? I was like, what? And she said, oh, there was this women's shelter being closed, and some mysterious anonymous person came in and blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, yeah, great story. And I went back to work. And she's like, well, maybe you misunderstood. I said, no, I heard you. And she said, well, Jeff, knowing you, I thought you'd be more excited about this. I said, no, real exciting, super good story. And I go back to work. And she says, look at me for a minute. And I look at her, and my employee looks me in the eyes and says, oh, my God, it was you, wasn't it? Well, I'm not a good liar. I didn't say anything. And she ran down the hall, and she told all the other employees, it was our boss. That mysterious anonymous guy was Jeff. So all my employees come running in my office, and they're like, did you do that? And a thought occurred to me right then, that if you do not build a company composed of people smarter than you and trust them and empower them, you're never going to get success anyway. I became successful in business and financially successful because I hired people smarter than me, and I got out of their way. It's a servant leadership model, an inverted pyramid. Your job as a leader is to hire people smarter than you and then take care of them so they never want to leave, right? That's your real job. Build a company that the people who could work anywhere all want to work for you and never want to leave. Stop thinking you got to run the company, and start letting people smarter than you run it. And your job is taking care of them to make sure they're in the right state to run a company. So when my employees said, you did this, didn't you? I had this realization, and I said, no, you did. And they said, what do you mean? We didn't even know about it. And I said, the only reason I had the funds to go save this women's shelter is because I have the best damn employees on the planet. Your products are brilliant. Your customer service is bar none the best out there. Customers love you. The market loves you. And because of you, the team, I had the profits to go do this. And I watched my employees' faces change. You could almost see their chests swell and their hearts. And Heidi said, I guess we did do that, didn't we? And everybody walked down the hall silently, but nothing was ever the same again, because my employees realized that their success, they created the success that created the miracle. And so I came up with an idea that you should do. It's called the Quarterly Project Fund. Every quarter, we take a percentage of profits, which means it's a triple bottom line. My employees really focus on our profitability and savings money because they know that if we have profits, a percentage of it goes in the community fund. And every quarter, I give them that money and I say, you, team, go find somebody in our community to help, just like we did with this. And so I'll tell you one of the stories. One day, my employees were all having this meeting in the conference room about babysitting each other's kids and pets. I said, what are you doing? And they said, we're going to start working double and triple shifts. I said, I did not ask you to do that. You have families at home. And they said, it's short term and we're doing it voluntarily. I said, why? And they said, because we were reading a customer contract and we found out that if we finish this project under budget and on time, the company gets $100,000 cash bonus. I said, oh, you want extra money because it's not in the budget? They said, yeah, no, about that. I said, what? And they said, since it's not in the budget, we're going to work around the clock. We're going to get the bonus and we're going to ask you if we can have the whole $100,000 to put in the community project fund. I said, what for? They said, this weekend, a tenement housing facility in the poorest part of town with 4 families in it burned to the ground. Nobody was injured, but they had no insurance. They were poor. They lost all of their clothing, all of their belongings, and all of their personal effects. There are 4 families that literally were already living in a bad place and now are homeless, penniless, and propertyless. And I said, what do you want to do? And they said, we want to build 4 houses. And so they contacted Habitat for Humanity. They gave them the money. On Saturdays, when I drove out there, my employees, by the way, wearing the T-shirt of my company, which made the news, right? We're out there building houses with Habitat for Humanity for those 4 people. And one day I noticed that Heidi, the girl I told you about, was coming in 15 minutes later to work every day. And I said, hey, Heidi, it's not an issue, but I'm just curious. Are you driving a different route to work every day? You know what she said to me? She said, I am. And she said, you know what I do, Jeff? She said, every day when I leave my house, I drive over to the 4 houses we built. I park my car for a minute and I look inside and I see 4 families with electricity, running water, new furniture, lights, table, living, laughing, feeding their kids breakfast, getting ready for school. She said, every morning I drive by the houses that our company built and I can't wait to get back to work again. Imagine your employees driving to work through a community that they fixed, past a women's shelter that they funded. The reason that my employees, one of my companies, when we sold it, I was so thrilled to find out that my head of HR told me that in all the years from the day I started the company to the day I sold it, not one person that worked for me had ever quit. And I was blown away. That's the coolest thing I've ever done. And I don't even know how. And I asked the employees and they said, because we've never worked somewhere where our work, our paycheck and our performance impacted everybody around us, not just me and my family and my mortgage. They said, we love being part of a community. So my challenge to you is to create a community fund and put a percentage of the money you're making to your employees and let them find somebody, not you, let them find somebody every quarter in the community. One last thing on that, and then I'll do the last story. It's not all about money. Because when I tell this story, sometimes people say, as soon as I make money, I'll help. That's not the only thing you have to give, and that's not the only thing that people need. People need mentorship. They need an arm around their shoulder when they're down. They need someone to care. They might need someone to run errands for them. There are so many ways you can affect the people in your community without spending a dime. I'll tell you where I learned that. One quarter, we had 2 deferments, and we had no profits. And I went in the conference room to tell my employees, bad news. There's no money for the community fund this quarter. They said, yeah, we're already past that. I said, what are you doing? And they said, we did some research and we found out that of the 11 nursing homes, senior citizen homes in our community, 9 of them are in low income areas and nobody even visits those people. And it was coming up on the holidays. And so I said, what are you going to do? And they said, we did a food drive and we did a clothing drive. Didn't cost us a dime. Then we all did baked goods. And we asked every grocery store in each of our neighborhoods to donate turkeys and food. And so you know what we did? We went Christmas caroling. And we delivered food, blankets, clothing, pillows, and toys, and baked goods, and all this stuff that cost us nothing to these 9 nursing homes in our community. And it was kind of funny because we were singing Christmas carols. And while we were singing, on the very first song at this one nursing home, I realized something. We're engineers, not musicians. Not one person that works for me can sing. There was this horrendous screeching sound. And at the end of the first song, I said to these folks in this retirement home, I said, look, I'm sorry that none of us can sing. And this cute little old lady in a wheelchair in the front row signaled me over. She kind of whispered, Mr. Hoffman, come here. And I came over and she said, bend over close. And I bent over close. And she said, it's okay. Nobody that lives here can hear. And I said, why are you smiling? And she said, it's the thought that counts. Your entire team came over here to show us some love, and that completely made us feel like we weren't forgotten. You don't need money to make a difference. Now, Bernardo, interrupt me if you need to, but I was going to do one more story. Or you can send me a message in the chat because I can see that. Do we have time or no? Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Go ahead. No problem at all. Go ahead. No problem.
I just want to respect people's time. So I'm going to tell you, the last story is about leaving a legacy for your employees. So I told you a story about living your epic life and making sure that you know what is something, the things you need to do. So you'll look back like my friend Michael did and said, man, I like the way my life turned out. That's our definition of success. So I don't hire people by starting out with an interview anymore. When I interview people, I start with this question, the one I just asked you. I start by saying, tell me one thing you need to do in your life that will make your life epic, that you will look back and say, man, did I use my life the way I hoped to use it? So the very first time I asked that was an engineer I brought in to interview, and I said, his name was Chris. I said, Chris, before we start, here's what I'm going to do. I want to ask you a question. I said, tell me one thing you need to accomplish with your life. What would be on your bathroom mirror? So that you'll look back and say, time well spent in my life. And I didn't know what he was going to say, and he answered instantly. He said, Jeff, that's easy. I need to buy my mom a house in Florida, fully paid. And I said, wow, that's a really specific answer. Tell me. He said, Jeff, I grew up with only my mom and my sister in a trailer park, and we were the poor people in the poor people's park. It was a mobile home park, and we had an Airstream. Everybody else, the difference is mobile homes at least have doors in separate rooms and more than one room. An Airstream was a single room. They only had a bedroom, and he and his mom and his sister lived in it. And it was so old that the wall was rusted, and they were so poor they only had one blanket. And in winter, the snow came through the holes in the wall. And I said, Chris, what'd you do? And he said, I used our only blanket to prevent the snow from coming through the holes. And I said, then what? He said, I watched my mom shiver all night long because I took our only blanket. And I said, how'd you get through the night? And he said, I made a pledge that one day I will work hard enough and be successful enough to buy my mom a house all fully paid where she can spend the rest of her life in the warm Florida sunshine as a thank you for the sacrifice she made to be my mother. I said, Chris, you're hired. He said, Jeff, you didn't interview me. I said, oh, yes, I did. We're done with this interview. You're hired. I went back to the office the next day. I printed out a picture of a house in Florida. I stuck it on the wall near where Chris works. When my employees came in, they said, what is that? I said, it's the reason Chris comes into our office every single day. What's yours? And you know what I asked everybody to do? I asked everybody that works for me to go home and print out a picture of something from their epic life mirror, of the reason they get up every day, the reason they care, the reason they work so hard, because their reason isn't yours. Believe it or not, they are not there to make you rich and make your company successful. They're there to buy their mom a house, not yours. So you people walk through my office and we could see, I could tell you why everybody that works for me. One night late, and then I'll finish this up, everybody was leaving, and I said, I'll see you guys in the morning. And they said, you're not going home? I said, I'm working on something. They said, what are you working on? And I said, the guest bedroom in Chris's mother's house. And everybody in the building totally understood what I was talking about. We're here to make everybody's lives epic, not just yours. So here's what happened. Because I know why my employees work for me, when my employees were very motivated. If you got a person whose mother's life depends on your company being successful, one time when things were going bad, Chris came into my office and pulled up a chair. I said, what are you doing? He said, I ain't leaving until we fix this because my mom's future depends on the success of this company. So whatever you need, I'll roll up my sleeves, Jeff, and I'm in it with you. Those are pretty good employees to have. Employees driven by passion and purpose will far outperform employees driven by paycheck. So here's the last part of the story, and then I'm done. I had phenomenal employees. We delivered. Our customers loved us. Our products were great. We were profitable, and I got an acquisition offer and sold the company. I gave everybody that worked for me a cut. Chris bought his mom's house. And I'll close with this part of the legacy because it was so important to me. We got his mom out of Pennsylvania is where the mobile home was. Got her on a week. So she knew her son made a little money. And she thought he made enough to spring for a week vacation in sunny Florida for her. So she went. And at the end of the week, we brought her to the house. And it was a setup. Chris and I drove a rental car, picked her up. We drove to the house. She thought that it was my house. And so we went in the house and she turned to her son and said, I live in a rusted piece of crap Airstream trailer. And you brought me here to show me that your boss has a shiny new house in Florida. She turned to me and said, take me home right now, Mr. Hoffman. And I said, ma'am, I understand you're upset, but I just want you to do me a favor first. She said, I want to go home. And I said, I'll take you home in a minute then. I'll take you back to the airport if you do me one favor. And she said, what? And I said, I want you to walk down the hall and into my bedroom. And she actually, it was funny. She turned to her son and said, son, this is getting weirder by the minute. Your boss is trying to take me into his bedroom. And he said something even funnier. He said, there's nothing I can do, Mom. He drove. If you want to ride to the airport. And she got angry. She said, fine, I'll look at your bedroom. And then you got to get me out of here. And the reason she thought it was my house was because remember I told you she only had a bedroom set because she only had a one-room trailer. All the furniture was new. So she assumed it was mine because it was all foreign. But the reason I took her to the bedroom was while she was out of the trailer and that week, I had them ship all of her bedroom stuff to the house in Florida. And we set it up. We recreated her bedroom in the new bedroom, even to the point where because they were poor and because she was stressed about feeling like she failed her children, in the middle of the night when she was stressed, she would brush her hair like 1,000 times, Chris told me. And because she couldn't afford to be able to turn the lights on and run up her electric bill, she did it in the pitch blacks. And because it was black, every night, the last thing she did was take her hairbrush, put it on her nightstand, turn it 90 degrees so she could find it in the pitch black and comb her hair when she was stressed. So I took her down the hall. She opened the bedroom door. Not only had I moved all her stuff, but I had her hairbrush shipped and I put it on the nightstand and turned it 90 degrees. And when she walked, I'm not going to get emotional now. I'm trying not to. When she walked in, looked at the room and realized it was her house, I lost it. She lost it. Chris lost it. The three of us are standing there with our arms around each other, crying hysterically. And I'm thinking, this isn't even my mom. Why am I crying? And I'm crying because my business and my hard work gave me the opportunity to be the part of the legacy of everybody else's lives, of my employees' lives, of the families in my community's lives. At that moment was one of the coolest moments of my whole life, and it wasn't even my mom. And Chris turned to me, and I thought Chris was going to say, Jeff, thank you for helping me fulfill one of the legacies in my life. I'm good now. I'm going to go. He didn't. You know what he said to me? He said, we should get back to the office. I said, you want to go back to the office? Why? He said, I want to go back to the photo wall and see who's next. I was never more proud to be part of a group of people that understood that we are all here to work hard so we can make other people's lives better, not just our own. So Bernardo, I am going to stop there. I hope that folks will follow. I hope that some of this was useful to you, that you will first work on your own legacy, then on leaving a legacy in your community by community projects, and last, find out what you can do to be a lasting legacy in your employees' lives as well, because you have no success without them. Bernardo, thank you for having me today. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, as always, I've got everything open here. I was going to say, as always, Jeff, tremendously inspiring and so to the point. It's the dream of, I think, of every entrepreneur. I know we share a lot of ideas similar to that. Ultimately, we're all, here for a number of reasons, not one reason, for a number of reasons, and we have to help people find what that purpose is. And I believe, I think the same as you do, that apart from entrepreneurship, personal, professional growth has to be about what are we here for? What are we going to leave behind? And far too many people are focusing on, things that have absolutely no value. It's funny, I was following a Netflix documentary recently about, what is it called? It's about minimalism, and obviously the idea of just letting go of things in order to kind of because we just can't take it all. So
right, can't take it with you anyway.
Exactly, and for me, my mum passed away unfortunately the beginning of this year, and like everyone, we just tend to accumulate, and then at the end, you're going to leave it to your kids to get rid of all the or whatever you leave behind. So listen, tremendously inspiring. Congratulations on all your work. I mean, I've obviously worked with a lot of speakers, But, yours is just such a beautiful story. And I know how deep you've gone. I know the work that you've done in so many different countries and teaching coding and in supporting you. You've done so many great things. People don't know half of it. So I'm blessed and honored to have you in my contact list. And I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you. And again, it's because of all the work that you do and your heart and dedication to this that I'm here today. So I very much value our friendship, and I will get out of the way now. And again, thanks for having me, buddy.
Kudos. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeff. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.